You're welcome back from that very short break with the golden voice of Africa, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa there, delivering his speech to first UN meeting as a country. We begin this morning's paper review by taking a look at the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper this morning is leading with an update on the Delta killing of soldiers. Aftermath of soldiers' killings. Bloodbath in Delta, villagers flee, hide in forests. Aftermath of soldiers' killings, bloodbath in Delta, villagers flee, hide in forests. This is the story the Vanguard newspaper is leading with this morning. We did have a conversation on this yesterday. This very, very unfortunate incident where, just as a backgrounder, for those who have not been following the story, a group of soldiers were invited for a peace mediation between two warring communities in Delta State, and in one of the communities, the soldiers were said to have been rounded up and killed and their bodies mutilated, meaning that that was an act of deliberate murder by the young people in that particular village. And since then, not even a hen or a goat has been able to sleep peacefully in that village because it's been mayhem upon mayhem. We read yesterday that the village was set ablaze by some unidentified persons as soldiers laid siege around those communities, including some communities in Bayelsa State. This is what you get when you touch the lion's tail. We did say that the life of every Nigerian is important. The life of every citizen is important, and deliberate killing, deliberate taking of life shouldn't be condoned in any manner. More so, the lives of those who have chosen to wear that uniform, to soldier on while we sleep. They make sacrifices while we sleep in peace, and then for them to be murdered in such a manner, it's actually an attack, like the president rightly said. It's an attack on the country, and it shouldn't be condoned. It shouldn't be tolerated anywhere. And of course, the president gave the marching order and gave the army, the military generally, all the needed support to go all out in fishing out those who are responsible. We have read that some arrests have been made, including a monarch who was said to be providing a hiding place for some of the perpetrators of that dastardly act. Of course, even Bayelsa State is not spared because some of the perpetrators fled to neighboring communities in Bayelsa State, and those communities have also, been raided by soldiers in search of this guilty dastardly act. But a lot of commentaries have been made, especially with respect to the kind of response that we see from the Nigerian army with respect to how they have responded to this attack on their own personnel. A lot of questions have also been asked as to where was this same strength, same energy, same anger, collective anger, when similar attacks were meted on innocent villagers in parts of the country. Recently, even as recently as at yesterday, about 87 human people have again been abducted by a group of armed men. Just after about 40 or so were said to have been kidnapped in another village, all in Chikun local government of Kaduna State, as at yesterday. Over the course of last 1 week, there hasn't been a day that we will not read or hear of one kidnap or mass kidnapping or another. And we haven't seen, we were hoping to also see such a collective anger, particularly from the governors of those states, political leadership of those states, people of authority in those states, to vent out this same energy and anger that we are seeing the military venting on this incident, because These armed people, they are not people from heaven. They are not spirits. They are human beings who live among us. Intelligence must definitely have pointed to some doorsteps. We need to see such collective anger so that collectively those who are bent on ensuring that the rest of us don't sleep peacefully at night will get to know that they are not bigger than the Nigerian state. They are not in any way a match for the Nigerian security agencies, and whosoever chooses to take the laws into their own hands should know that the wrath of the entire nation will be brought upon them and their families. When we do this collectively, for whosoever is involved, whether an armed person, whether a soldier, a police, or a civilian, when we do this in equal measure, at any time or anywhere this kind of act occurs, then we will begin to see a reduction in these crimes. Else, if we choose to vent more anger when it only happens to a group of people as against another group, then of course we are generally saying that some lives are more precious than others, whereby indeed we all know that as Nigerians we all have equal stake to life. This is a universal right. It's not even a Nigerian thing. It's a universal right to life. We all are equal before God as far as the right to live is concerned. And therefore, when anybody is touched by armed group like this, as we've been reading over and over, in fact, there are people who for months now have been in captivity. Nobody knows about their fate, but we know that they are there in the kidnappers' dens, who are still making demands of their frustrated and exhausted relatives. So such anger that we are now seeing, we hope that it becomes a collective national anger that will also be vented on any group, anywhere, that chooses to attack any citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, regardless of their status in life, regardless of whether they have chosen to wear uniform or not. So, for the people of Delta State, especially the Okoma community, where this very, very ugly incident occurred, as we can see, there hasn't been anyone who has been able to sleep in that village. As we read that villagers are fleeing, some are even sleeping in forests for fear of their lives, because it's not been easy. The soldiers are not backing down. They are all out to fish out those who committed this dastardly act. When you see the pictures and the videos of what was done to the bodies of these soldiers that were killed, it's pretty disheartening. It's not something that you will wish for even your worst enemy. But here we have it. But we hope that this becomes the last of this type of incident. It's not something that should happen. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. Now that it has happened, for it not to repeat, we must see, not just hear, we must see that justice has been done. As we are also calling on authorities concerned that the same line of anger should also be vented on the kidnappers who are having a field day in parts of the country, particularly in the north central, northwest, and northeastern parts of the country. There are pockets of course, security challenges here and there in other parts of the country. We are saying collectively, let's begin to see that level of anger that a life of a Nigerian has been touched, that a Nigerian has been kidnapped by unknown gunmen, as they are called. Let's begin to see that level of anger from our governors. Luckily, the governors of the Northern Governors Forum held a meeting, I think it was yesterday, where a lot of things were said, but those are just rehash. Of course, they are rehash of the things that we've heard beginning to sound like broken record, because words without action, anger without action against the enemies of the state is just a rehash. It's not something that actually holds water. But when we begin to see action being taken, definitely the enemies of the state will also understand that it's not business as usual. Thankfully, the president has come out to say that his government will not fold its arms to watch people being killed, being threatened, as it used to be the case. And so probably this is a new dimension, a shift in, the approach to security of lives and property in Nigeria that we are beginning to see. We hope that this effort is sustained, and we hope that every single person that is responsible for causing distress to any life in Nigeria is apprehended and made to face the full wrath of the law. You can see on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper pictures there of the slain soldiers. Of course, we continue to pray for them. You can see Lieutenant Colonel A.H. Ali, who was the leader of the group. He was the commanding officer of the group, and all other soldiers that were slain in that very dastardly attack. May their souls continue to rest in peace. We will continue to pray for the repose of their souls and hope that their families that they have left behind find solace in the mercy of God Almighty. Because it's one thing to lose a relative, it's another thing to lose them in such a callous manner. It's one thing to lose a loved one. It's a different thing to lose them in the manner in which these people were killed. It's very, very disheartening. It's a national tragedy, and thankfully, collectively, we are all out in condemning this with all the energy that it requires, so that those who will press the repeat button of an act like this will think twice. Other stories that made it to the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, if you take a look at the above the masthead, you have Edo Guba, APC unveils Idahosa running mate. The detail of that is on page 7. Terrorists kidnap 87 in fresh Kaduna attack. We just made reference to this. Another 87 human beings, another 87 souls, another 87 Nigerians, another 87 family members are now in the hands of people who do not mean well for the country. They are now in the hands of enemies of the state. And one thing that hurts one is to know that these victims are kept in a place that is still within Nigeria. They are usually kept in a place that is still within the state from where they are kidnapped. And to think that Kaduna State of all places, the state with the highest number of military establishments in Nigeria, for this kind of things to be happening freely, it leaves a lot of questions. But the Chief of Defense Staff has been on top of the situation, giving all assurances that the security forces are on top of the situation to ensure the release of, first of all, the over 280 pupils. Remember those ones? Just I think it was last week. They are still there in captivity, a substantial number of them. Remember the ones that are also kidnapped again in Zamfara, Sokoto, and again in Kaduna State. Before the first one of yesterday, others have also joined, and we are yet to hear any cheering news about their rescue. Of course, we can only continue, as the President has said, let's continue to have hope that this time around things will be done differently. Moving ahead, Nigeria doomed without new constitution. Who are the people saying this? Anyoku, Adebanjo, Nwachukwu, Atta, Sanwo-Olu. They are demanding that Nigeria needs a new constitution, else the country is doomed. You want to read details of this? Get Vanguard newspaper and go to page 8 to get more details of what that entails. Ibadan circular road, over 6,000 residents to be rendered homeless. Ibadan circular road, over 6,000 residents to be rendered homeless. Detail is on page 10. Padding. Obi calls for review of 2024 budget details on page 8. The last is yet to be heard of the budget padding allegation by Senator Abdul Ningi from Bauchi Central, who alleged that the 2024 budget as submitted and signed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has indeed been padded to the tune of 3.7 trillion naira. All that followed after that allegation, we were already aware. Abdul Ningi got suspended for 3 months for making public such a very important information by his colleagues in the Senate. But the last of that is yet to be heard, as civil society organizations have said, like SERAP, I'm sure, have also asked that this budget padding matter be handed over to the EFCC, that is Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, for investigation. It's not just enough that the Senate will come out to say Abdul Ningi did not have facts or he misinformed the public, but let the EFCC come in because it has to do with national finances. It has candidate of the Labour Party in the last presidential election has also joined his voice to say, well, this allegation is strong enough to call for a review of the 2024 budget. We will continue to listen or to continue to also watch what will be done next going forward. SANU, that is Senior Staff Association of the Nigerian Universities, NASU, Non-Academic Staff Union, ground varsities over withheld salaries. Remember that the associations had threatened to commence a 7-day warning strike from yesterday, Monday. They have, of course, lived up to their threat. The warning strike commenced yesterday. Reports came in that University of Abuja entrance to the University of Abuja yesterday was blocked by the protesting lecturers, demanding, university staff, demanding that government listens to them and pay them their dues. Of course, there has been an allegation by the union that despite the fact that they went in an agreement with the government in 2022, which led to suspension of their strike, in 2023 again, October, they led to suspension of their strike, nothing has been done from the side of the government to show that they are sincere with the agreements reached. There was also a report of the government claiming that, coming from Minister of Employment, saying to order, of course, be able to do something as quickly as possible. Other sports stories, there is another sports story. African Wrestling Championships, Nigeria wrestlers go gold wire in Egypt. Nigeria wrestlers go gold wire. I love this coinage because from the feelers we are getting from the ongoing African Games, all African Games in Ghana, Nigeria is only second to Egypt in terms of the number of gold medals won by any country so far in the competition. The large chunk of that gold is coming from the Wrestling Federation and those who are representing the country in the wrestling competitions in that game. I'm sure at 10 o'clock when our sports crew gets to grace the screen, they will provide us with more cheery details of what's going on at All Africa Games in Ghana. Kudos and congratulations to the winners so far. Of course, this will be the much we can take from the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, which will now quickly lead us to the next paper, the Punch newspaper. The Punch this morning is also leading with an update on the killing of soldiers in Delta State. Soldiers killing, Army, Delta community differ over reprisal as troops arrest 20. With riders, Army accuses community of complicity. Defense headquarters releases photos, names of fallen heroes. Delta governor visits Okwama, meets with JTF commander. Rep urges restraint. Ijo Youth Council condemns attack. These are all updates following that very cowardly and dastardly and barbaric act of killing of soldiers who were on a peace mission in Okwama community that had a difference with another community, and the soldiers were invited to come and mediate. And it explains probably why they didn't even go there armed, because they didn't go for combat. They didn't go for any form of combat, and therefore they felt they could just go to mediate. But the youth of that community thought differently and planned and carried out that very dastardly act, so we now have to deal with it. Of course, there is a repeat of the picture of the slain soldiers on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Above the masthead of the Punch newspaper, you have dollar supply rises to $11 billion. Naira closes at 1,572 to a dollar. Detail is on page 21 of the Punch newspaper. Cable cuts. Telcos pledge 100% voice data services today. Cable cut. Telcos pledge 100% voice data services today. The epileptic services we've been receiving from our telecoms is to come to an end today. That's what this means. But if you want details, you can go to the Punch newspapers, page 22. Reps summon Edu, Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission over judges' poor pay. That is, representatives, lawmakers in the House of Representatives summon Wale Edu, that is coordinating Minister of Finance and Economy, then the head of Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission over judges' poor pay. Details on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. Of course, there are a couple of other stories. Withheld salaries, SAMI, NASU strike grounds varsities, 2,814 schools registered for NSCDC security arrangement. This is coming from the commander. EFCC recovers 324 houses, documents for Kano pensioners. EFCC recovers 324 houses, documents for Kano pensioners. Details on page 9 also. 87 abducted in fresh Kaduna raid. Borno bomber dies. Details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Tension in Ogun as transport unions clash over ticket sales. Tension in Ogun as transport unions clash over ticket sales. Anytime these people have misunderstanding, there is always a potential for tragedy, always a potential for bloodbath. So we hope that the police have been able to swing into action to tame whatever it is that was brewing up right there. We quickly move to the Leadership newspaper, and this morning Leadership is leading with this story. Bandits sustain attacks on Kaduna, abduct another 86. And with riders, outlaws raided Kajuru Sunday night. 10 days after, terrorists yet to contact families of 287 students. Defense chief visits Kaduna as governor says school children will return safely. That is quite reassuring from the governor. But another 86 students kidnapped. If you put all these numbers together, you will begin to see plenty heads of human beings that are now in captivity, that are now in the hands of outlaws, people who have decided to bear guns against, the people of Nigeria. And there you also have a repeat of the picture as released by Defense Headquarters showing the faces of soldiers killed in Okwama ambush. Okwama has now become famous for the very, very wrong reason, if you ask me. I'm sure before now many Nigerians outside of that region do not even know about a place called Okwama. But instead of being famous for the right reasons, the youths of the place have chosen to put the name of their community on the very, very wrong map. And I'm sure by now they are feeling the heat. And this should serve as a deterrent. We repeat, it will serve as a deterrent to any other group in any community from anywhere in Nigeria that you do not touch the very institutions of the state and expect yourself to go to sleep peacefully. It has never happened anywhere. It shouldn't be allowed to happen here. The perpetrators must be fished out and they must be made to face justice. A couple of other stories. Labour Party lawmakers continue fight over convention. Labour Party lawmakers continue to fight over convention. Detail of this political story is on page 6. Non-academic staff strike grounds varsities. We've touched on this before. EFCC recovers 324 houses for Kano pensioners. Money meant for retirees. Some people have decided to steal them and use them to build houses or buy houses, totaling 324 that have so far been recovered by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I mean, you can imagine why the country is the way it is. People who choose to dedicate their lives to serve the country after reaching the retirement age of 60 or after serving for 45 or so years, which is the basic requirement for retirement, what is due to them? Some people who have been put in charge, who have been given that trust, decide to maneuver, decide to steal, plunder those resources for their personal gains. We still remember very famously the Abdurrashid Maina saga, who was asked to head a committee that was supposed to investigate another committee that was alleged to have stolen pension funds. And then he ended up also dipping his hands in the very, very oily pot of pensioners' money and pensioners' funds. Till today, it is still haunting him. Even without anyone cursing anybody that decides to play fast one on pensioners' funds, you should know that this definitely will have a repercussion on not just you, but even your family members that you feed such blood money with, because it's blood money. It's evil money. Money that people have worked for, they've toiled all their lives for, and are expected to retire home and relax in peace. You, because you've been put in charge, you've been given that trust, you think you are smart enough to, maneuver, do some abracadabra with your pen and your colleagues in the office. You maneuver and divert such funds for personal gain. Definitely, even if you are not caught by the arms of the law in this world, a day will come that you will have to stand before your God to account for what you have done to families, what you have done to those people who have made such sacrifice of serving diligently their country. 324 houses so far recovered. This is just for Kano, and this applies to in fact, all states in Nigeria. Issues of funds, people stealing pension funds. I mean, it's all over. People stealing pensioners' money here and there. There is something about pension money, I think, that made people to just think that it's free money for them to steal. But thankfully, the EFCC and other organizations are up to the task of ensuring that no one does that and goes scot-free. APC will win Edo Guba election, says Tinubu. That is the president talking for his party, that his party will win the upcoming governorship elections in Edo State. I'm sure the PDP is also saying the same thing. Labour Party is also saying the same thing, as well as other parties who have candidates in the coming election. Now, above the main story, Sanwo-Olu, Anyaoku, Adebanjo, others clamor for new constitution. The detail of this is on page 7. Ending Nigeria's forex crisis depends on solving institutional challenges. This is from an analyst on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And above the masthead of the Leadership newspaper, soldiers' killers won't escape justice. This is coming from the defense minister. Soldiers' killers won't escape justice. Please, Mr. Minister, ensure that they do not escape justice. I will also plead with you in the same vein that, Mr. Minister, ensure that our children who have been kidnapped in Kaduna State over the course of the past 1 week, all of them get returned to be reunited with their families. Perform or be sacked, Wike tells FCTA permanent secretaries. Of course, yesterday we witnessed a very historic event in Abuja, where the Minister of the FCT, inaugurated first his own Chief of Staff, Honorable Amadi, and then that was followed by the commissioners for the newly formed FCT Civil Service Commission, including the chairman. And that was followed by the inauguration and swearing in of the 10 permanent secretaries that are now to pilot affairs of the various secretariats and in the Federal Capital Territory Administration. And the minister was very clear. Barrister Eze-Wanye Somike was very, very clear and emphatic that you are not just appointed to fill in an office, you are appointed to perform, and we will be watching. If you fail to perform, there will be no issue of query, he told the permanent secretaries. There won't be issue of query. You will be asked to pack out of the office as a permanent secretary. I mean, that's a very strong warning, and it's needed, very, very necessary, of course, for civil servants to ensure that they do what they are asked to do diligently, of course. Moving on, Daily Trust is our next stop, and Daily Trust is leading with this story of abduction in Kaduna. 86 abducted in fresh Kaduna attack. Rider 73 cattle rustled in Plateau. Bandits taking over Bandits taking over our farmlands, Southwest farmers. Defense chief alleges plot to cause mayhem. Defense chief alleges plot to cause mayhem. You have an infographic there of recent kidnappings and killings in Kaduna State. A closer look at these infographics is very, very disheartening. 8 incidents in 3 local governments in 30 days, that is within 1 month. 8 incidents, 452 plus victims, 12 kills, 17 houses burnt in February, and then that is February 18th. On February 29, 2 people were killed, 10 were abducted in Chikum local government. The first one, the incident of February 18, was in Kajuru local government, and then the incident of February 29 was in Chikum local government, where 2 people were killed, 10 abducted. Then in Chikum local government again on March the 7th, 287 pupils and students abducted. That happened on March 7th in Chikun local government. And then in Birnin-Gwari local government on March the 8th, that is the following day, 2 people were killed and many abducted in Birnin-Gwari. And then on March the 12th, in Kajuru local government area again, 30 people were abducted. And then in Kajuru local government again, the following day, that is March the 13th, 1 person was killed, 8 abducted. Then on March the 16th, in Kajuru local government area again, 14 people who were abducted. And then yesterday, that is March the 17th, in Kajuru local government area, again in Kaduna State, 86 persons have been reportedly kidnapped. I mean, you begin to wonder if there is a plot to sack the entire that part of Kaduna State, because these are all local government areas in southern part of Kaduna, Kajuru, Chukun, and Birnin Gwari. I mean, just 3 local government areas witnessing all of this within 1 month. That's quite disheartening, and it's enough reason for anybody to feel saddened by this very, very incident. We hope, as we have been assured by the military and security chiefs, that they are on top of the situation to ensure that all of these people that are in captivity are returned to their families. No reprisal attack over troops killings. This is from the military. No reprisal attack over troops killings. Military is denying reports that it has sent its men or troops into the Okoma community and neighboring communities for a reprisal attack after the killing of its personnel. The military says it has nothing to do with that. All that they have been doing is to go in to the places that suspects of the attack are hiding and make arrests. NAPTIP, that is National Agency for the Prohibition in Trafficking in Persons, arraigns Alliance Hospital staff over organ trafficking. Detail of this is on page 5. Court injunctions stopping swearing in of Plateau APC lawmakers. Governor's aide is saying there. Gaza, now world's biggest open-air graveyard. This is coming from the European Union. No thanks to the Israeli raids on the Gaza Strip. The very consistent Israeli raids on Gaza Strip has now turned Gaza to the world's biggest open-air graveyard. This is coming from the European Union. And now, below the masthead of the Daily Trust, Ayoku Adebanjo, ex-governors, call for new constitution for Nigeria. Undersea cable cut, business owners count losses, services restored. And then lastly, Sanu Nasu ground activities at varsities, NLC to join action. Of course, we heard from the NLC leadership yesterday, the president, Joe Ajero, giving his support to the ongoing warning strike by Sanu and Nasu. And they have also advised the government to stop playing games and meet the striking workers so that they can be able to reach an amicable resolution, so that they can, in no distant time, resolve, so that these workers can return to work. Moving on now to the Guardian newspaper, and the Guardian newspaper this morning is leading with this story. No middle class differ, home ownership plans for food. No middle class differ, home ownership plans for food. Detail of this is on page 6, but a couple of other stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Court convicts 5 for murder, kidnapping in Rivers. Court convicts 5 for murder, kidnapping in Rivers. Settle Nasu Sanu members urgently, Nigeria Labour Congress tells federal government. Looting depicts misrule, misery and decadence in society. This is the editorial of the Guardian, that looting depicts misrule, misery and decadence in society. Terrorism. Ohaneze cautions Tinubu as gunmen abducts dozens in fresh Kaduna attack. Detail of this is on page 6. Tinubu meets Edo APC chiefs over state crisis. Detail is on page 5. Sanwo-Olu, ex-governors, others call for new constitution for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Implementation hurdles for copious provisions in new Electricity Act. Implementation hurdles for copious provisions in new Electricity Act. This is a new analysis on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Metering gaps remain despite 273.3 billion naira loan to discos for meters others. This is the panorama news on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. And before we call it a day today on this segment of the program, let's quickly take a look at the last paper for today, which is New Telegraph. The New Telegraph this morning is also leading with an update on the Kaduna killings. Kaduna fear tension as bandits kidnap 87, loot shops in fresh attack. 48 hours after abducting 14 residents as Kajuru Chukun local government becomes hotbeds of kidnapping and banditry. Detail of this is on page 2. And below the masthead of the New Telegraph, Akpabio, our legislative agenda will enhance living standard as National Assembly National Assembly seeks 10-year ban on fees increment. National Assembly is seeking 10-year ban on fees increment. Detail of this is on page 28. You have abandoned the people, Labour Party tells rep members. Of course, it's still an ongoing battle between the party, that is Labour Party, and its representatives in the National Assembly, who are insisting for a shift in the proposed date for the convention by the party. And the party is not happy with this disagreement, and of course it's accusing the reps members of abandoning the people after they have been voted into office. 4.1 billion naira fraud. EFCC hands over 324 recovered houses to Kano pensioners. Still, this is an update on the story we read earlier and talked about pension fund stealing. How past governor's cost setback for Ekiti. Afe Babalola is speaking there. Hardship. Be patient with Tinubu. Muslim urges Nigerians. And of course, quickly, above the masthead of the New Telegraph, you have undersea cable damage. Telcos restore services to 90% capacity. And you also have CBN on ease as sacked directors refuse to sign retirement letters. Very interesting there. Sacked directors refuse to sign retirement letters. You will get details of all of these on the front page of the New Telegraph for today. Adopt 2014 Confab report. Anyoku tells federal government. Adopt 2014 Confab report. Anyoku is telling federal government, says 1999 constitution lacks legitimacy. Nigeria, pluralistic country, struggling to become a nation. Nigeria, pluralistic country, struggling to become a nation. Detail of all of this is on page 4. Defense ministers, killers of 17 officers, soldiers must face justice. And then there are riders. Armed Okwama youths allegedly killed our officers, soldiers, army warns against propaganda. CDS vows to root out perpetrators, sponsors of insecurity in Nigeria. And that's the much we can be able to take on this segment of the program, the newspaper review segment. We hope that you have enjoyed this segment and is encouraged enough to go out there and grab a paper or two so that you can be able to know what's going on in the country. We will now go on a quick break to go join Dr. James Komolafe and his team on the behavioral check segment. We'll be right back after that. Stay with us.
Good day out there, and good to meet you on this platform. Dr. James Komolafe, your behavioral health doctor, handling the good, the bad, and the ugly without the drugs. Welcome to the show. I bring you greetings, and I'd like to let you know that we're still on this very compelling series on emotional dehydration. The journey of 1,000 miles, people say, begins with a step in the right direction. The topic I want to relate to today is, before dehydration, what happens? What happens before I find myself in the pool of emotional dehydration? So many things go the wrong way before it eventually shows up on the surface as dehydration. Can I shock you? The first thing that happens to you is that you accumulate stress. Stress is your number one enemy. When it is in the intermediate and in the long run. Stress is good in the short run. It's a push. It motivates you. But by the time you keep breaking your personal lifestyle protocol and thinking you have all of the time to be all of the work and do all of the jobs, no break, you'll be stressed. On very many occasions, people don't know their limit, and the few who know tend to breach such limit. So there's nothing bad in knowing your limit, even when you are not limiting your knowledge. Stretch your mind so that you can accommodate more. Please don't allow for stress. Also, please put proper protocol in place. The word deadlines is a commonplace phenomenon in the individual lives, in families, in homes, and much more in the organizations and offices. Deadline, deadline, deadline. Oh, I'm on deadline. Doctor, I'm on deadline. Every time, deadline. Now, look at it. Deadline. How many words can you find there? 2 words. 1, dead. 2, lines. In another way, line of the dead. So when you are critically on deadline without respite, it means you are treading on dangerous lines, fatal lines. And that's why your guess is as good as mine. Here and there, there's hardly any week we don't hear of sudden collapses. And it can happen anywhere. In the house, in church, in society, on the land, on the air. Even people sleep now, they don't get to wake up. Why? Emotional dehydration is ravaging many lives and taking away precious talents across the nation. So what do? Please don't wait until you are fagged out. Have protocols, lifestyle protocols that you keep to. Run your behavioral analysis, and that I will gladly send to you for free. You can run your behavioral checkup, a checkup from the neck up to be sure you are good neck down. There you'll be able to put your details in perspective and live young, long, and at the same time very strong. I hope you pick a lesson or two here. You can revive. You can become refreshed again. You can bounce back to your normal order and gain traction. Put a call through today to Dr. Long Life on +234 80 35 999 220. I say it again, +234 80 35 999 220. I and my critical team will support you to get it back. Don't wait until the chips are down. Prevention, they say, is better than cure. Thank you very much. See you next time, and bye-bye.
the welfare of millions of people as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of equality under the law. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the Constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the goal has done recently, to the people. Independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the Constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the goal has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late in 1959.
Welcome back from that very important segment with Dr. James Komolafe and his team. And of course, you have it there, us taking you back to the very good foundations of Nigeria, talking about those very golden speeches made by the founding fathers of the country. This now brings us to our interview segment. Of course, during the course of the newspaper review, we did highlight that the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria and non-academic Nigerian universities and the non-academic staff union have embarked on a 7-day warning strike which started from yesterday. Also, the Nigeria Labour Congress have decided to join the foray, lending their voice to the two unions and calling on the federal government to urgently take steps that will ensure that the demands of the protesting lecturers or protesting workers are met. Also, the federal government has come out to appeal to SANU and NASU not to continue with the ongoing strike. Now, what do all these things mean, and what is or are the ways forward for Nigeria with respect to this issue of warning strike, which the unions have promised will end up in an indefinite strike should the government fail to meet their demands? We have therefore invited to join us via Skype. He is the President, Public Office Holders Association of Nigeria, in the person of Mr. Adeola Isin. Thank you and good morning and thank you for joining us, Mr. Isin.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. My first question to you will be, do you think the two unions, that is the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, are justified in proceeding with the 1-week warning strike as have been planned? If you can hear me, do you think the unions are justified to embark on this 7-day warning strike?
Thank you very much for that question. I would think that And what is good for the gender is good for. Well, okay, of all
Okay, I think we're still having a network challenge. Your network is free. The network is freezing rather, and this is understandable because we know that there have been an incident of cable cut that has led to disruption in the services provided by telcos in Nigeria, and not just in Nigeria but across the West African sub-region. And indeed, it's also understandable why we are having this, the network issue. But if you can hear me, I would like you to continue with your thoughts on whether you think the two unions, and indeed the Nigeria Labour Congress that is now supporting the two unions, are justified on proceeding with the 7-day warning strike, which started yesterday. If you can hear me, Mr. Adeola.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly now. I was saying, you cannot, one tree does not make a forest. And when you're having different organizations, associations, requesting for
again, there is that freeze, which is not what we have planned for this morning, and I will have to think that in order not to continue to delay our viewers, and also in order not to, stress our invited guests, we will have to apologize at this point that we will have to wrap up this segment of the program until we are able to bring Mr. Adeola Esheyin to the studio in person so that he can give us these very valuable insights as to the way forward regarding this warning strike embarked upon by the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU. Sincere apologies there, Mr. Adeola Esheyin, for the efforts you've put in to join us this morning, but unfortunately the network have decided not to be our friend this morning. But we can reassure you that we will definitely have to invite you to the studio to come share those valuable insights with us. Thank you very much for joining us. And now it's time for us to go join our Investment Plus team for those valuable financial management tips. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Investment Plus. Today, I'm here to share with you 3 essential rules that when you follow them diligently, you will definitely start your journey to building wealth. Rule number 1, you need to spend less than you earn. It sounds very simple, but a lot of people don't do it. Many people fall into the trap of living beyond their means. Now, that would be, let's say you earn 100,000 and you're spending 120,000, 150,000. There is no way you can build wealth that way. To build wealth, we must break free from the cycle of living in debt and overspending. Now, the question you want to ask is, this extra 20,000 that I have that I always overspend with, where do I get it from? It's actually from borrowing or dipping into future income that you have not even earned. So you need to cut that habit of overspending. What you need to do is to start by creating a budget and tracking your expenses. Now, I know we don't like the word budget, but honestly, you can create wealth without a spending plan. That's what the budget is. It tells you what to do with your money. As a matter of fact, you tell your money what to do. So you need to differentiate also between needs and wants and prioritize saving and investment. Now, in my experience coaching people, I found out that a lot of people have muddled the meaning of needs and wants. They know it, but somehow in their subconscious they just tell themselves, you know what, that need is a want. That's why it's an emergency. And that's why you see people run around when it's rent time, they run around when it's school fees time. These things are actually things that tell you when they're going to come, and they're not emergencies. So it's a bit muddled up, needs, wants, emergencies. And so you must be careful to know the difference between these two. Rule number 2 is to invest wisely and diversify your investments. Diversify. Building wealth isn't just about saving money. Now, I know you've heard that, and a lot is going on online, particularly where people tell you saving money is not the key to wealth, and that could be true. But when you save money, you have peace of mind, because now you can take care of basic needs, and you can cover bills that you should cover that normally would stress other people who don't save out. But when it comes to wealth building, you have to actually make your money work for you. You have to learn about different investment options, such as stocks, real estate, mutual funds. You have to take the time to learn. You have to seek advice from financial experts, particularly if you don't have much time on your side. Consult and then create a diversified portfolio that aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance. I always say that if you want to know what your risk appetite is or tolerance, all you need to do is to play the game Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you can tell. If you're the one who walks away at 250,000 guaranteed, you know your risk level already, so you can easily tell what you have appetite for. Remember, time also is your greatest ally in the world of investing. Every time I get the opportunity to talk to young people, university students, even secondary school students, I always tell them, you have to start now. Don't wait till you're 30, you're 25 or anything. If you're 18 watching this, you need to start now. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to investing. Rule number 3, plan for the future. Retirement, beyond retirement, you need to make a plan. It is crucial for you to always have a long-term perspective when it comes to making day-to-day financial choices. You have to start planning for your retirement as early as possible. The truth of the matter is you have energy to work right now. There's going to be a time where you won't have as much energy. And the truth is, when you see someone in their old age looking for money from their children all the time, or bothering the entire family, or having to do so much hard labor to make money, they didn't make wise financial choices when they were younger. Now you have that opportunity to correct that. So consider options like pension schemes, individual retirement accounts, and other investment vehicles that offer tax advantages. Furthermore, safeguard your wealth with insurance, estate planning, and you also need to create an emergency fund. Remember, preparation is the key to financial security. And that's it on today's episode. 3 money rules you must follow to build wealth. Spend less than you earn, invest wisely and diversify, and plan for the future. That's retirement and beyond. But remember, it's not just about following these rules blindly. It's about developing the right mindset and making them a part of your financial lifestyle. Now, before we conclude today, let me share a bonus rule with you. You have to continue to learn and adapt. That's the key. The world of finance is ever evolving, and to stay ahead, we must commit to lifelong learning. So read books, attend seminars, follow financial experts to stay informed. I mean, Google is your friend today. YouTube is also amazing. You need to keep your learning going. By expanding your knowledge, you'll make better financial decisions and seize opportunities that come your way. That's it on today's episode of the show. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
I'm sure you've also learned some very valuable tips from that segment on financial management. That was Investment Plus, and that now brings us to the end of the program for this morning. We sincerely apologize for the poor network that didn't allow us have our scheduled interview with Mr. Adeola Eshin to discuss the SANU and NASU strike. We hope tomorrow is another day. We'll be able to have him or someone else live in the studio for that very important conversation. A sincere thank you to you, dear viewer, for investing your time with us this morning on Aso Morning on Aso Television, right here at Katampi Hill, where you find the center of Nigeria's map. My name is Usman Katun Umar, urging you to be the best you can be today. Continue to spread the word of peace wherever you are. Bye-bye for now.